Good afternoon, everyone. It's Miss Leyna here. So I'm here to pick up our story about Mary Driscoll. This is our fifth part of the story of Mary Driscoll. And now we are in Lowell, Massachusetts. Tuesday, June 22nd, 1847, Boston Harbor. Glory be to God. 'Tis true. America. You could see it. Everyone who could walk rushed up on deck, bringing their bundles and their cases with them. Many fell to their knees and gave thanks to the Lord in heaven. Others wept and embraced those around them as tears ran down their cheeks. 'Tis over, this horrible voyage is over. My new life is about to begin. I give thanks to the Lord who mercifully granted me the good fortune to see this day. Many were not so fortunate. Wednesday, June 23rd, 1847, Boston. So much has happened. I must try to write. When the medical officer and the other men boarded the ship, the celebration ended. Everyone crowded together on deck, thinking the nearness would protect us. The men stretched ropes across the ship so that there was only enough room for one person at a time to walk. They went to calling out names. Those whose names were called walked between the ropes to where the medical officer stood waiting, and quickly he worked. Those he judged healthy were allowed to leave. Those he thought ill or feverish were stopped and questioned. One wee boy was found to be infected. His mother begged to remain with him, but her pleas were for naught. The boy was too sick to even cry out and was carried away. 'Twas his poor mother they held back. But little enough could they do to hold back her shrieks, which stabbed the air. I tried not to watch, but my eyes were fixed like a moth to the flame. Saddest of all were the Corcorans. First the medical officer examined the twins and Brendan. 'Tis a miracle the children have never had a day's sickness since the voyage began. Mrs. Corcoran looked drained, but was not feverish. They were allowed to pass. Then came Mr. Corcoran. He was having trouble standing. The medical officer was asking him questions, but no answer was coming. He wasn't even looking at the officer. Looking right past him, he was, to America. He was still clutching his losing lottery ticket in his hand. Suddenly he was pushed to the side, and before anything could be done, he was led away. I began to move forward to help, but Sean was grabbing my arm. Mrs. Corcoran looked confused. Everything was happening so fast. "Be on your way!" one of the men shouted. Mrs. Corcoran carried Sophie, while Brendan took Molly by the hand, and they made their way down to the wharf. How will they find each other, I thought. What will happen to Mr. Corcoran? Where was he being taken? "Mary Driscoll!" the man called out. "Go," Sean whispered. "Be brave." Trembling I was, while the doctor looked in my eyes. He asked me to open my mouth and hold out my tongue. I prayed that I showed no signs of the fever. He was standing close and looking at me. His eyes were coal black and his heart as flint. Afraid to look at him I was, but afraid not to. If I looked away, he would think I did have something to hide. Finally he looked down, wrote something on a piece of paper, put a blue tag on my shawl, and told me to move along. Sean said to wait and not to let anyone help me, no matter what. His uncle warned him that the runners will steal from you or try to take you to one of the boarding houses. Then they will demand to be paid for their service. America, he said, is no place for a fool. I waited for Sean while keeping a sharp eye out for Aunt Nora. 'Twas chaos all around me. Passengers streaming off the boat, people being greeted by their families and friends. 'Twas a scene of wildest excitement, I promise you that. Everyone running after one thing or the other. I didn't see how Aunt Nora would ever find me, but I stayed rooted to the spot just the same. Suddenly a man appeared out of nowhere. He snatched the bundle from my arms and told me he would be pleased to find me proper lodgings. "We have no need of your services," someone behind me was saying. 'Twas Sean, and with him his uncle. Mr. Quinn was not as tall as Sean, but as thick as a stone wall he was. His face wore a terrible look. He told the man we didn't need aid of any kind from the likes of him. Praise God, the man dropped the bundle, turned, and disappeared into the crowd. I was still not seeing Aunt Nora. The docks had emptied. Only a few sailors and stragglers were still about. The sky was turning dark. "We must leave soon," Sean was saying. Where was it but to Aunt Nora's that I had to go? Why she was not there to meet me, only God can say. What would I do? I didn't even know Kate's address. I couldn't leave until Aunt Nora came. "Go on without me," I said. "I will be all right." Sean said he would not be going without me. He would stay all night if waiting was my choice. "But," he said, 'Tis a foolish thing to do. Sean's uncle said 'twas not likely my aunt would be coming at this late hour. Missed connections are common now that so many Irish are coming to America. Sometimes a ship is late or a letter gets lost. He promised to place a notice in the Irish newspaper. All will turn out well in the end, young lady, he assured me. Mr. Quinn urged me to allow him to take me to his home for some food and a good night's rest. I was hungry and tired to the bone. I was sorely in need of shelter for the night. 'Tis a long road that has no turning, he said gently. I accepted his kind offer. The roads are not paved with gold, as Aunt Nora said. I asked Sean's uncle if we would be coming upon them soon, and he laughed heartily. There is so much to see and hear. The tall houses with their spires and chimney tops are piled one on top of the other. Everything is bigger than back in Skibbereen. The roads are filled with people rushing around, moving so fast, and all at the same time. Not one slowed to rest. Carts and carriages of every shape and size drive wildly, their warning bells ringing out. No one pays any mind. They barely look before stepping into the road, the carriages flying past their noses. Everywhere I looked there were Irish. 'Tis a wonder they are any of us left in Ireland. They seemed as worn and hungry as those I left behind in Skibbereen. Some were begging for food. Some were standing on the street corners. Still others simply stared out from doorways, far from the kings and queens I expected to see dressed in their robes of red. Friday, June 25th, 1847, Boston. Sean's uncle was able to find out where Alice O'Donnell was living from a man he knows at his tavern. 'Tis a miracle, if you ask me. We find the building, but there were so many rooms we didn't know where to begin. Finally a man came out and told Mr. Quinn that Alice O'Donnell was in the cellar. She earned her keep doing the wash for a family with a flock of children that lives upstairs. God help her, the poor child was curled up asleep on a mattress when we found her. 'Twas so damp the mattress was soaked and her clothes were wet. Not a ray of light and precious little air to breathe down there. When Mr. Quinn woke her, she opened her eyes wide. I could see the fear within. I reached for her, hoping she would take my hand. She made no move. 'Twas because of the fear. The poor child could not see. Why Mrs. O'Donnell did not tell me her daughter was blind, only the Lord can say. Her conditions, along with the state she was living in, grieved me terribly. Mr. Quinn kept his wits about him. He told Alice O'Donnell we were friends and we had come to help her. He asked if she could speak, but she said not a word. 'Twas plain for all to see she was horribly treated. Mr. Quinn and Sean left to find the family she worked for, while I tried to talk to her. Alice O'Donnell remained crouched in the corner, her knees up to her chin, holding herself and rocking. I wanted dearly to find the words to say. I wanted to tell her I knew her family and that she could trust me, but wasn't I afraid? How would I answer if she asked where they were, when they would be coming for her? Gently I touched her hand, but she pulled back. I tried again, but still she withdrew. I didn't know if I were scaring her more than she already was. 'Twas then I decided to sing, hoping Ma's lullaby might soothe her. On the wings of the wind, over the dark rolling deep, angels are coming to watch over thy sleep. Angels are coming to watch over thee, so list to the wind coming over the sea. Hear the wind blow, hear the wind blow, lean your head over, hear the wind blow. Still singing, I tried once more to touch her hands. I could see that some of the fear had fallen from her eyes. This time she let me stroke her fingers and press her hands in mine. She was listening carefully now to every sound. I could tell by the way she cocked her head. Slowly she reached out with her other hand and searched the air for my face. I leaned forward and she found my chin. Then she felt for my mouth and my eyes. She stroked my hair, trying to see how long 'twas. Then we both heard footsteps. 'Twas Sean and his uncle. Alice's hand remained in mine. I don't know what Mr. Quinn said to the family, but when he returned he was pacing up and down like a caged animal. He said that Alice O'Donnell would be leaving with us. She would stay with him and his wife until it could be decided what was best for her. Then he looked at me. I wasn't sure what he wanted me to do. I told Alice that we were her friends, that I had just come from Ireland. She felt my face again. I told her my name and promised that no harm would come to her. She was tilting her head again. I wished she would talk to me. She moved her hand across my face, feeling the tears falling down my cheeks. My name is Alice, she said in a whisper, and we stood up to leave. So I hope you guys will join me next time. Have a great night. Bye.